Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Fight for Our Freedom Radio. And I'm your host, BADBABY. And tonight we're going to talk about Planet X, and we have two guests that are with us tonight. To start out with, we're going to start out with Terral 03, and he's going to give us a BlackStar update. And then after that, we are going to bring Robert Evans in, and we're going to talk a little bit about updated information that he has. How you doing, Terral? Are you with me? Hello,
yeah, I should
Terral.
be.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. I had to check my phone to see if I was muted.
No, I just unmuted you.
Okay.
Unless you muted yourself on your end.
Yeah, everything's fine. Yeah, I'm doing better. I've been a little under the weather, but gradually my voice will be a little off, but I can get you a report.
You know, I find it very interesting that all of us that are speaking out about Planet X, you, me, Gil Bazard, we're all sick, and we all are sick in the same manner.
Mm-hmm.
Gil's very sick. I mean, he's
makes you kind of suspicious, doesn't it?
Yeah, it is. You know, like they're trying to silence us, you know.
Well, we'll just keep plowing ahead. Take it as it comes, I reckon.
Yeah, that's true. What I'll do is when I get up tomorrow, I'll send you the links where I bought that honey at, and I'll send you the articles about what it does for your body.
Okay.
Okay, so why don't you give us a little update here for us tonight?
Okay, for those that are not familiar with Project BlackStar, you can get more information at terral03.com. This is a 6-year investigation. We've been tracking the gravitational magnetic anomaly. We began tracking it in the Leo constellation in January 2011. And we gathered enough data in the first few months to predict Fukushima within 4 days. The next year, Guerrero within 2 days. And it's moving left in the orbit diagram. It's been averaging 12 degrees per year, which is impossible for an object on elliptical orbit. But this thing is, now we realize what's going on. It's slowing down because it has a magnetic relationship, a magnetic polarity, so that the black star is being repelled by the sun as the gravitational influence is pulling it in. So as the gravitational force is increasing by the square of the closing distance, but the magnetic repulsion force is increasing by more than the cube of the closing distance. What's happening is the black star is transitioning from elliptical orbit to something more circular, and looks like it's going to reach perihelion somewhere near Venus orbit path, and that's why we think that Venus has a screwed up retrograde reverse rotation. And Venus could be messed with again. It's in the wrong place at the wrong time. There's a high probability because of where this thing reaches perihelion. Earth has 2 opportunities on crossing events, one in the spring and one in the fall. And if you read Scripture, then for the people that are familiar, then Christ is describing what happens at the end of the age in Matthew 24 with the sun turning dark. In Revelation 6:12, it talks about it turns black as sackcloth. We're seeing those giant coronal holes that are forming on the sun. And as the black star gets closer to the sun, then it siphons the energy. So the scientists are saying we're going to a Maunder minimum or grand minimum or whatever they want to call it, but that's not really what's happening. The energy is being siphoned off across the entire electromagnetic spectrum. The black star is redirecting that energy to the planets based upon how close they are to the black star. So we have Jupiter converging on black star position, and the black star is in the Libra constellation, and it only made a 3-degree move last year. At least that's what the data is saying. We're getting more data now. But averaging 12, this thing averaged 12 years moving left in the orbit diagram in the solar system for a decade. And then last year, we were supposed to have our near-side alignment quake event on May the 7th, 2016. And it happened on April the 28th. The previous year, that was April the 25th. It's only 3 days. We've had 12 days in between all this time, and so the black star has slowed down even more. Apparently, there's a inferior model, the magnetic pole migration model, that says we're actually still on the 188-day cycle. If that's true, we could have a crossing event that can only happen in the springtime. As far as the geological pole shift for which we have no warning, because it hasn't reached the sun yet. It's going to turn the sun dark when it gets next to it at perihelion position, when it's really close at Venus orbit path. And so that's why Christ says that there's going to be these signs. The sun's going to turn black, because at the end of the age, we're going to experience a fall time crossing event. So that's all the components are there in the scriptures. But Paul says that he talks about how the day of the Lord begins, and that's what's about to happen. This is not the end of the age. This is how the day of the Lord begins, and the destruction comes suddenly like the birth pangs upon a woman with child. Those birth pangs are the earth changes, and that's what we've been using to track it. It's been working rather well also. And so we know when we're going to have the minimum number of earthquakes. We know we're going to have the maximum number of earthquakes. And we passed behind the sun relative to the black star here just recently in the transition from November the 13th to the 14th. And that's whenever we had the El Salvador quake. That was the most recent one, the 7.2. The 7.8 New Zealand quake that took place on just about midnight on November the 14th. Then whenever you line up the orbit diagram and you look across through the sun, then you can see that this is the event whenever we passed right behind the sun relative to the black star. These backside alignments, these are backside alignments when we're passing behind the sun, and we have earthquake events going all the way back to 2010, September 4th. That would be the 7.1 Christchurch. The year after that was Fiji. It happened on September the 15th. So we had a steady progression of these 12 days. It was pretty easy.
So in the spring of 2017, is that going to be a backside alignment?
Oh, that's a near side alignment. So that's what this year we passed between the black star and the sun on April the 28th, according to the primary modeling. That's on the near side when we're the closest to the black star. That those 4 weeks in April, we had 9 new volcanic eruptions, and then we had 8 new volcanic eruptions for each week. Then we had 7, and then we had 9 again. That's what happens when we're very close to the black star. We're predicting it way in advance. We know when it's going to happen. And then whenever 3 months later, when we're at the 90-degree position in the solar system, that's when we have only 1 or 2. It happens in the winter. We're able to predict the weeks that it's going to happen, and it happens in the summer also. So now we just passed behind the sun relative to the black star. That's why we had this big rash of earthquakes and 7 new volcanic eruptions. Not for this recent week, pardon me, because the lull period has already started. So people are giving me a little bit of flack about that, but you'll see as time goes on that the number of earthquakes that we've been having are going to decrease, and they're going to continue. It's not going to be a straight down thing, and we're still near the peak of the backside. But, for example, week 41, that was the previous week, so when we had the New Zealand quake, then we had 4 6-magnitude earthquakes, 49 5-magnitude earthquakes, and that is just about the highest value of the year. 303 of the 2.5 to 4 magnitude earthquakes, that's another value that's just about the highest of the year. And for this recent week, the one that just passed, all those values went down. We went down from 4 to 3 on the 6s. We went from 49 to 33 on the 5s. We went down to 232. That's still above average. Average is around 210. So we're still above average, but we're right near the peak. But you're going to watch these values continue to diminish until we have no 6-magnitude earthquakes. We're going to have sub-20 values on the 5-magnitude earthquakes. Likely we're going to have 2 weeks in a row, sub-20. And having sub-20 values for the 5s is very rare in the chart, but it does happen in the spring, in the winter when we're at outside orbit position, and it happens again in the summer. In the summer when we're at the 90-degree angle position relative to our alignment, you see. The reason that happens is because magnetic portal connections. We're connected to the sun through a magnetic portal connection. You can get more information at Terral3.com. But also we're connected to the black star through its secondary magnetic portal connection. So the black star is siphoning energy from the sun and it's redirecting it to the Earth. But we have two well-defined uptick periods and we have two lull periods. Whenever we get to the middle of February, we're going to start moving towards the black star. Because we're going to reach that 90-degree angle and then we're going to start moving directly towards it. That magnetic portal connection between the black star and the Earth is going to shorten rapidly, up to 50 to 60,000 miles per hour. Whenever that happens, then the magnetic portal connections, these guys, the one between the Earth and the sun, disconnects every 8 minutes and reconnects. And then the number of internal conduits, we're getting a little technical, but these magnetic portal connections have internal conduits. If you could slice one open, you'd be looking at what looks like tree rings. You'd have the heart in the middle, which is the active conduits, and then you'd have the white on the outside. That would be the passive conduits. They're like vacuum tubes. They're not conducting anything, and they provide insulation properties for the magnetic portal connection. So as we must start moving towards the black star, then that magnetic portal connection is disconnecting and reconnecting, then a higher percentage of those internal conduits activate, and it increases black star electromagnetic potential, and it floods our planet with vast amounts of energy, electromagnetism, redirected from the sun. So we know when the uptick's going to come. From February to the beginning of May, we're going to be moving towards the black star, and that's when the uptick is going to be coming. Then after that, then we have a lull period because Earth is racing by at 66,000 miles per hour, and we start moving away from the black star. Magnetic portal connection lengthens, reducing that potential, and then we go through the lull period. It's been happening like this for the last 6 years. Very predictable. Then after that was August the 19th, then we're on back orbit. You have 6 months on the near side, 6 months on the back side relative to the sun when you draw that 90-degree angle. So then whenever we're on back orbit there in the early summer, we're right in the black star's headlights. So it's coming directly towards us and we're crossing in front of it. That brings us to the second Earth change uptick period. It's not as dramatic as the front one, but it's very recognizable in the seismic chart. And then when we get to the backside alignment, which we did, then that just happened, then we start moving away from the black star again. So that's what's happening right now. We're getting ready to go into a lull, and I'm getting a little flack about that. Are you sure we're in a lull? People are writing me already. Yes, we are, and we're going to use hindsight. Like I said, we've done this for the last 6 years. We know this is what's going to happen, and it's not that these values are going to go straight to the floor because we're in a lull, but whenever we get to February, the middle of February, and we're going to see the lowest values of the year. It's going to be like a stair step going down. You're going to get a bounce every now and then. As soon as you get below 200 on the 2.5 to 4 magnitude earthquakes, then you get a bounce. If it goes down too far, it bounces back up. It's like Earth is trying to maintain equilibrium. That's what it's doing, and we're monitoring that. We're watching the new volcanic eruption events every week. We're monitoring the magnetic North Pole, how the Chandler Wobble is now moving according to a pattern. Where the magnetic North Pole is right now, it is trailing last year's position by 12 days, just like it did last year. And that is not supposed to be happening. It is happening not because we're looking at a magnetic pole flip. You hear people talking about a geomagnetic pole reversal as if the North Pole and the South Pole are switching. That is not what is happening. What's happening is we have another magnet in the inner solar system, in the black star. It's a powerful magnet, and it is trying to wrestle magnetic polarity control from the sun. It's just too small to do that. The sun's too powerful. But on a crossing event, which we're going to be in that position on the far side of the solar system, and at the end of April, and then at the beginning of May, then we're going to be really close to the black star, and if it's crossing Earth orbit path, it's going to be very, very close to the Earth. And that enables the black star to wrestle magnetic polarity control from the sun. That's what causes the initial geological pole shift. Earth actually being tipped over because of the metals that are embedded in Earth crust. So those metals are being pushed by the magnetism, and the water on the Earth is following the law of gravity. So that water wants to crawl up on the land. That's why you're looking at John Moore's map that shows the eroded coastlines. It shows the giant hole out in the western part of the United States. And the reason for that big hole is because of the calderas that are out there that are bulging. And if you wonder, well, the BlackStar comes every 3,600 years, why didn't it do it last time? The reason is because a series of events have taken place going all the way back to 2004, December 26th, with the Sumatra quake, that big giant one. And that was that's on the 188-day cycle, too, just like the 8.8 Chile quake from February 27, 2010. A series of events have happened that's changed the Pacific Ocean Ring of Fire tectonic volcanic dynamic. Whenever we had the Solomon Island quake event, that was February 6, 2013, it cracked the tectonic plate in two, and it created additional space in the Pacific Ocean Ring of Fire tectonic matrix. And that began the cascade of the tectonic plates in the United States away from the North American craton, moving southwest towards the Solomon Island region that is halfway around the world. So that cascade is moving in slow motion. A new line of earthquakes has formed between Texas and Seattle because of that, because these plates gradually are relaxing. The pressure is what keeps them from moving. We release the pressure, and then they can slide. So that's what's happening over there. What was a Baja California quake swarm area in 2011 is now the entire U.S. West Coast, all the way pushing up into Canada. Now, the earthquakes activity you're seeing with the +3 earthquakes, the 3 mag earthquakes at the Oklahoma quake swarm area, that number jumped and started going parabolic after 2013. Not because of fracking. It has nothing to do with fracking. It has to do with the pressure that is shifting from the Pacific Ocean through America all the way over into the Atlantic Ocean. Where that quake swarm area is a little foot formation of the North American craton that's massive, 250 kilometers deep. The tectonic plates out on the west coast are only 60 kilometers deep, and these plates are pulling away from that, and with those pressures shifting, it's creating this quake swarm area in Oklahoma. I know Dutch Sense, he wants to go on about how it's from fracking. They're doing fracking in a lot of areas of the United States, heavy duty. And now, last time I looked, the new development in Oklahoma is that the quakes are getting bigger and they're getting deeper. The average quake, the last time I looked for the recent week, deeper than 5 kilometers. There's not any fracking wells that go that deep. They go down a kilometer, maybe a kilometer and a half, and then they turn sideways. And that's the way that they reach the resources that they're looking for. It's not like they're drilling straight down 5 kilometers. We're having them 7, 8 kilometers deep. It doesn't have anything to do with fracking whatsoever. If it was, that would be near the surface. And in my view, you cannot pump enough water down a hole to move the entire tectonic plate, even if you had a fault line there, which you do not. So just want to give a little bit of commentary on that. What's causing the uptick in the earthquakes is the tectonic shift that has taken place, series of dominoes. So after that quake I told you about, Solomon Island, I'm watching these values every single week, and the average is 210. The single week, the lowest week in the last 6 years for these indicator quakes, these 2.54 magnitudes, came 2 weeks after Solomon Island. We had only 107. That hasn't happened before, and it hasn't happened since. And it was because of the tectonic shift. Then we had another tectonic shift, and we had the 8.3 Chile quake from last year. It came in week 30. If you look at the seismic chart, then you'll see it in week 34. And following that earthquake, we had 0 6-magnitude earthquakes on the entire planet for 5 weeks in a row. That hasn't happened before. It hasn't happened since. Because there was after that 8.3, there were 12 6-magnitude earthquakes that week, 56 of the 5-magnitude earthquakes. That might be the high value for the last 6 years right there. And after that flurry of activity, nothing. That's an indicator of another seismic shift that we had. Now, here's the really bad news for California and the entire U.S. West Coast. If you guys live out there, I hope you're listening. And you're going to want to get my newsletter, volume number, let me go, I don't have my radio notes up. It's not. It's volume number 28. And again in 42. 42 is a really good one. You're going to want to get your hands on that. It's going to show you what's going on down deep inside the Earth. In the transition zone, you have rocky stuff on the top and you have metal down in the core. And in between you have a transition zone of Earth mantle. It's from, say, 440 to 660 kilometers deep. When you have big earthquakes down in that area, then it causes rising magma plume activity. And we've had enough of those already that it has created a magma plume reservoir. That reservoir looks like a giant horseshoe. With the center of it, in Indonesia, that's your origination zone. Then you have an arm reaching around through the Philippines, Japan, Kamchatka, through the Aleutians. These are quake-swarm areas that I'm describing here, pushing towards Alaska. Same thing coming around the other side. Through Fiji, from Indonesia through New Zealand, Fiji, and across, pointing directly at Chile. And we have a diagram of that plume activity, and that's exactly the way that it looks. It's running from Indonesia, pointing straight at Chile, but then we have a branch that's pushed north, and we have a bunch of these 5-magnitude earthquakes when the Earth change uptick period starts that seem to just come out of nowhere. And that is what's happening is this magma plume formation that is funny, it's massive, and it is contained by buoyancy barriers. Whenever it breaks through these buoyancy barriers and it rises, it creates horns, little horn formations, well, massive horn formations. As they push up, it's pushing the magma on top, and that's what's creating this rash of 5-magnitude earthquakes. So eventually, what's going to happen is, well, first of all, when the Earth change uptick period starts, everything starts over in Indonesia, and then it pushes around the northern and southern sides of the Pacific Ocean Ring of Fire. Then you have the intensity part, really intense activity at the peak of the Earth change uptick period, which is what we just went through. We see the deep earthquakes, we're talking 500 to 600 kilometers deep, even deeper than 600 kilometers, down in that transition zone, jump from Fiji over into South America. The backside alignment event from last year was the 2 Peru quakes, November the 24th. 7.6 is 2 of them, more than 600 kilometers deep under South America. That is what's coming to the United States. They're pushing around, and they're following this. They're adding, during the uptick periods, it's adding more energy to that deep magma plume formation. So this is what's different from what's happened on previous BlackStar orbit cycles. The change in the tectonic dynamic, the creation of these deep magma plumes, this deep earthquake activity. Eventually what's going to happen is that pressure is going to push through. At the peak of the uptick period, it's going to push through Alaska down to Cascadia, and it's going to unlock Cascadia. It's going to push from the north through Mexico. See, on this cycle here, the last cycle this didn't happen, but on this one it did. The new volcanic eruptions pushed up through not just Peru, not Chile and Peru, but all the way up into Mexico. It could be that on the next Earth change uptick period that push is going to be all the way to Arizona. Eventually, this magma wave that's moving around the north and this magma wave coming from the south is going to converge. And this is not like in Chile or Peru or Central America where a wave is passing by. This is going to be where these 2 massive waves converge, and when it does, it's going to raise the magma that's underneath that 60-kilometer deep those tectonic plates that are out west, and it's going to cause massive crustal displacement. Massive. Like you see on 2012 movie, it's going to cause something like that because we haven't seen anything like that before. It's because of the convergence of these magma plumes that are down inside the Earth. So the science says that you see Cascadia Rising exercise, you see the big one, just Google the big one from the New Yorker 2015. They know that this is coming. That's what JDM 15 was all about. And they staged from Texas, which is in our safe zone area, but they did not go into California with those war games because they expect California is going to be destroyed by these events that are coming. Not just to Interstate 5, like you heard some of those, all the way back is what they're expecting. But what's going to happen whenever those 600-kilometer deep earthquakes happen underneath the United States West Coast is those rising magma plumes are going to break through the buoyancy barriers, and they're going to pressurize the Yellowstone Reservoir, which is bigger than they say it is, and they just realized that it's 4 times bigger than they thought, and before that they said it's 2.5 times bigger than they thought. The reason that they keep realizing it's bigger is because of the increase in activity from what we're talking about going through these uptick periods. Whenever that pressurizes, the magma that comes out of that transition zone is like glass. So you have rock on top, you have metal on the bottom, and you have glass in the middle. And this has happened before. Whenever Yellowstone erupted the last time, it killed animals on the other side of the planet because they inhaled from the dust clouds this glass that comes down.
Yep.
Okay? So that's what causes the massive hole out west. It is the pressures are going to shift through to New Madrid. It's going to cause a rash of earthquakes that is going to cause liquefaction of the entire Mississippi River Basin. So your safe zone area has got to be west of the Mississippi River Basin. 200 nuclear power plants on the east side. You're going to have to come out of your cavern sometime, even if you're over there. So that's why I'm giving you a little threat assessment report for the United States right here. The West Coast, there is no safe zone area that's west of the Rocky Mountain Ridge because of all those calderas that are going to be exploding out there and the ash, pyroclastic flows, things like that. On the east side, you only need one of these nuclear power plants out of 200 to melt down, and you have Fukushima in your backyard. You don't want to be downwind of that. You need to be far enough south to avoid the pyroclastic flows. You need to be east. So if you just Google Terral Safe Zone Map, then you can look at the Safe Zone Map, and it's going to look a lot like John Moore's. And it's taken after the Navy map. And there's the perfect place to be, which my safe zone is in the Ozarks. John Moore's is in the Ozarks. I think yours should be in the Ozarks. We have a survival group program that's running right now, about 200 families working together. We've got a big financial committee. I think there's 15 or 16 investors now that are working together out there. And we're getting ready to make some purchases. We're going to keep our powder dry and try to get even some more investors together. And we have people working on the prepping side, all kinds of committees and things like that for people that are awake and they want to join a group of like-minded people that are going to work together to neutralize all BlackStar-related threats. Now is a great, really, really great time to get on board with that. Big Ozarks group, big Texas group working down south of our position. And then we have the European group that's growing. The group in Australia is a little stagnant. I think it's about 7 or 8 people trying to work together out there. And we just put together a New Zealand group. So if you're in New Zealand, if you're listening to this in New Zealand, then there's people out there that are looking for the right cavern position. They've had the threat assessment reports. And I've given them the information. They need to be where they need to be, on which side of the ridge, and how high they need to be, 3,000 to 4,000 feet. And so there's a survival group that's working out there, too.
So they just contact you, Terral, through Terral03.com?
Right. So it's everything is free at Terral03.com. You got books out there. You've got hours and hours of videos, all kinds of information. Whenever you get ready to join the survival group, that's part of a benefit package whenever you become a newsletter subscriber. It's only $25 per year. You subscribe, you get a notification email from me, you'll get a special Gmail account that you're going to write me to, and you're going to request a threat assessment report. I'm going to send you that, and then at the bottom it's going to say, you want me to if you'll give me permission, then I'll share your contact information with the survival group leaders and everybody in the survival group. And then at the end, you're going to receive a list of everybody that's in the group, and that's reaching quite a few people now. Then it gives you an opportunity. Then if you're prepping and you're working together, and you talk to the other members, then you're going to find people doing the same thing you're doing. And you can find ways to help one another. So we have a fail-safe cavern location, and we're getting ready to purchase our own. We have several plans that are in the works and working with multiple groups. This is like my 6th group putting together. From there was an Appalachian group. I had to stop doing that because that was early on and didn't realize the nuclear threat enough. So I've been working in the Ozarks. Moved there and lived there for a couple of years, made a lot of friends there, cavern owners, a lot of people. So I've laid down the foundation for the groups. And then the idea is that we're going to network together once the crap hits the fan. And so we do have a strategy, and This plan has been in place for the last 5 or 6 years, and right now is really, really a good time to sign up. So before I wrap up the report, then if you get this newsletter, you can always go to my YouTube channel and you can get the newsletters for free. So if there's an update, as soon as you see BlackStar update, inside the description box there is a link to that weekly newsletter. You can get everything for free. It's just whenever you want my time. You want to write me at this email address and ask me questions. You want me, you want my time. You want me to hook you up with other survivalists. You want threat assessment reports. You want. I spent an hour and a half with conference calls with people. That's part of the benefit package whenever you want more. So there's lots of free. When you want more, that's when you hit the subscribe button. If you can use PayPal, and there's an option there that you can just use your checkbook, hitting the button there. If you don't like PayPal or whatever, and then if you don't use any of those methods, and you can write me. You can go to Terral03.com. It says contact Terral there. Remember, that's for non-subscribers, so I don't get there every day. I wish I had enough time to be able to do that, but if I have 200 emails from subscribers, and that's where my dedication is to the people that are supporting my research. So you can send me a message there, and I will send you say, hey, I don't use PayPal, but I want to support the research, and I want to be a subscriber. Then I will send you a snail mail.
Well, what about up here in Michigan, Terrell? Are there any survival groups in my area?
There could be locals that are there, but I'm not sending anybody to Michigan.
Because it's going to be
Colorado or California or New York, because they're not in safe zones. So you're too far north. So the pyroclastic flows come from out west. The prevailing winds are going to take those pyroclastic flows, those dust clouds, right over your head.
Yeah.
And the ground can be 6 to 8, 10 inches, or it can be 10 feet. And you only need one breath, and then those crystals are going to, it's like baby powder. But whenever it gets into your lungs, the moisture is going to reactivate it, and then it's going to solidify, and you're done. And there's no breather that you can use that is going to stop it. It's too fine. If you take a breath, it's going to fill up, and you're done. So you have to be far enough south. And then you want to be in a cavern position. You have to be in a cavern position. That's why the elite are going underground. Because imagine outside temperatures are sustained 200 degrees, 8 hours at the time, 10 hours at the time. Digging a hole in your backyard is not going to work because you're going to run out of breathable air. You need to be in a cavern position. And then even if you do survive, you come out of your hole in the ground, how are you going to deal with Mad Max? You need to be with a strong survival group. And you need to meet with these people before crap hits the fan. Otherwise, when you come along, you're going to be considered a threat. So join the largest survival group you can. Get yourself a good threat assessment analyst that understands the threat, that can advise you, because then you can work together. There's likely people from Michigan that are members of our survival group. But the way that you're going to know that is by subscribing, ask me for the threat assessment, give me permission to share your contact information. Then you're going to be talking to 100 people. And then you send a group email and you say, hey, who's from Michigan? And you're going to find out real fast. You know, who's close to you, who you can work with. People with the resources are encouraged to do the same thing John Moore did, same thing I did, same thing the people I've been advising from Europe since 2011. They picked up and they moved their tails to the Ozarks. Because before the event, whether it's 2017 on May some of the modeling says May the 20th, it's an inferior model, but it says May the 20th, 2017. If the 188-day cycle is still in play, which it could be. It could be May of this year. The superior models, the ones I'm using right now, the repulsion model says that it's not going to be here until 2018. Gives you another year to prepare. But I don't know which one's right yet. So I give you weekly reports. Every survival group leader weighs the evidence, and then you decide how you're going to spend your resources. But I've gone to the Ozarks to war game with my survival group, and for me, that makes a lot more sense. And to be in the right place at the right time, very, very important. So that's the way that the program works. And right now is a really good time to get on. It's impossible for us to have a geological pole shift in the wintertime. The horseshoe shape of the BlackStar orbit path, we're moving into that horseshoe. We're moving into that horseshoe. and it's impossible to have a crossing event. It's impossible to have a geological pole shift now. That can only be happening in the month of May or thereabouts. It's going to be over on that side of the solar system, not on this side of the solar system. So we have time to prepare, and I hope that your listeners, even if you don't subscribe or whatever, then go to my YouTube channel, Terral BlackStar, and hit that subscription button. It's free, and then you'll get my videos whenever they come out with your other subscriptions, and then go in the description box, and then you can get the BlackStar update report for that week. We have a survival section. We have health and wellness. We got lots of information for people that are preparing for what's coming from space. And there's still so many reasons to be preparing anyway. The collapse of the dollar, the World War III, what's going to happen next? The Chinese are coming, or whatever. But my prep originally was for the H1N1 swine flu back in 2009 and 2010, and the AI, artificial intelligence aspect of that, then made me realize that we're in serious trouble. Something's going to happen. I've lived in a travel trailer ever since then, and still do now. And when it comes time, I'm going to be pulling my travel trailer up to the Ozarks and to be with my survival group. So those of your listeners that are interested in neutralizing BlackStar threats in the future, then get to my website, get more information, go to my YouTube channel, and you can get the newsletters for free. When you want more, then hit the subscription button at Terral301.com. It's just $25 per year. Lots of benefits.
Okay, well, that was a great piece of information. I wish we knew which year it was going to be, this or the next, but I think, the way things are looking, I really think it's coming up next year.
There's a lot of other people that believe that too, and the members of our survival group that think that we're moving too slow, but I'm going by what the modeling is saying. I'm sitting in Florida 5 miles from the coast right now. I know we can't have a geological pole shift now, but when I head that way, probably a good idea to head that way, because I'm going because that's what the modeling says.
Well, I have a fifth wheel. I can head out of here.
Yeah, so that's pretty much what I wanted to share with you. And everybody can get more information. There's tons of information out there just on my website. You could spend days and days there watching videos and stuff to read. And YouTube channel, same thing. And then I'm still available. It's still $25, just like when it started, for a year. It hasn't gone up yet. And that's pretty much the program. And that's where we are now.
Okay, Terrell. Well, thank you so much for staying up late and coming out here and sharing your information with us. It was very enlightening, and I hope everybody wakes up and starts contacting you and try to get yourself a plan and get a hold of these survival groups.
Right. It's very good whenever you wake up and you realize this is happening. You see the pattern like I do, and everybody thinks you're crazy. These survival group members are awake. They've already woke up, and some of their family thinks they're crazy too. But it gives you somebody to talk to. That they go to chat rooms. They do have email lists, and they communicate, and prepping, all kinds of prepping stuff that they're doing. And
see, that's where I'm at right now, Terrell. I don't want to leave my children. I want to try to go talk to them, but they think I'm crazy.
Right.
So, I don't know how to approach them and try to get them to leave because they won't. They think that this is all BS.
Right. Well, the information comes out every week, and what I encourage the survival group leaders to do is to use the information, the seismic pattern, the things that I'm sharing with you guys every week. It woke them up. Try to wake the other people up. But some people are stricken with normalcy bias and similar mental ailments is the way I look at it, because the evidence is everywhere. The evidence is everywhere. What's going on? Jupiter's core is liquefying. The superstorms on Saturn coming every 30 years, whenever it's passed between the BlackStar and the Sun, which it does 29.6 years. So every figure for leftward movement, you should be having them 30 years apart, and that's what Saturn's doing. Then the Martian dust storms, Then the one that happened March 12th, 2012, Google my video on it, because that's the same day of the magnetopause reversal. That's the day that Earth magnetosphere, bow shock, faced the Leo constellation for 28 hours, which is impossible unless you have a subatomic particle flow that is originating with another star. That's the only way that it's possible, and that's what happened. NASA was caught scrubbing the data, and we were able to recapture it. And you can, if you Google, you can see it on my video, and in the Dropbox folder, then I have the file with all the data on there, and you can look at it. This mystery Martian dust storm happened the same day because it was a mystery to the scientists because it started on the nighttime side. The black star was behind Mars, and it pushed this wave of subatomic particles through from magnetic portal connection convergence. That's what it was. And then it turned our magnetosphere around, and we predicted that event. It happened this year on April the 23rd. We knew that it was going to happen just before the alignment. That's what it was last time. That's when those magnetic portal connections come together. And then they start portal-to-portal cross-firing. It creates highly charged ionic clouds. Those clouds get pushed, and then that's what started the Martian dust storms earlier, way earlier than what they thought. I knew when they were going to start in April. And then the magnetopause reversal happened again April 23rd. So the reason these things are happening is because there's something there. They can't just happen by themselves. And so it's a lot of patterns that are happening together, and to me, these are the birth pangs of Scripture. So I see them. I warn other people about it. They can pay attention. Or then there's three kinds of people in my mind: people that make things happen, people that let things happen. People say, "What happened?" When all of a sudden everything happens, it's going to be too late at that time. So we're doing our best at Project BlackStar Investigation to get the word out to as many people as possible, so they can work together with other like-minded people and be kings on the other side. The survivalists, people that are prepping, getting their ducks in a row, are going to be kings on the other side of this. Those that don't prepare are going to be living hand to mouth, and Mad Max is going to swallow them whole. That's what's going to happen. So that's my little sermon for on the Black Star. And I appreciate you having me.
Thank you so much for staying up late and coming on and giving us this information. I think it's vital. I think everyone should go to your page, Terral 03, BlackStar, Terral BlackStar 03, and look at your information. And if you want a plan, join for $25 and try to get into a group.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for having me, and we'll do it again.
Okay, Terrell. Take care, honey, and I'll get that information out to you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. That was some great information, you guys. Now let's see if we can get Robert out here. Hello, Robert. Is this you?
Hey, how's it going there, Bad Baby?
Hey, I'm hanging in there, sweetie. How are you doing?
Oh, not too bad. Terrell, I've been following him for a long time. He's got good information. You know, the interesting thing here is that each one of us, myself, Terrell, John Moore, Gil Broussard, and all the others, they're all coming from different points of view. Terrell's really good with the earthquake type stuff. I just am fairly decent with what I found during my research. John Moore put out either a revised video or a new video called Preparing for Pole Shift 217. Now, John Moore is a retired military person. He's also he works with intelligence, so a lot of his stuff, he still has all his contacts. So, you know, it's really interesting. When I was watching his show recently, he brought up the map. Now, have you had a chance to go on to your Facebook private message?
Yeah, that map that you put up is the old one.
Okay.
If you Google John Moore map after the pole shift, there is a revised one that shows, because the one that you showed me, it shows that Michigan's not affected. It is affected,
Yes.
Michigan ends up being just a small island in the center of the state. So I went and I got the updated map, and I posted that in the chat for those that are in the chat tonight.
Okay. Yeah, John Moore was really good on a lot of this stuff. There's another person that really got into a lot of this stuff. Let me dig him up real quick. Videos. He did a real nice video on YouTube. It's called Michael Scallion. That's his name, Michael Scallion, Future World Map. So you've got the somewhat maps that were originally created for Edgar Casey. And those maps went out to a lot of the high-ranking military officials who were retiring. And what's always been leaked on about that, whether it's true or not, is that when they were retiring, they were told that something was going to be happening real soon, and they would get a telephone call, and they would have to have everything ready to get out within 3 days once that call went around. And that was basically with that newer map showing where everything would be changed around the United States. That map had been leaked so many times in the last 30 years. That's how those maps became public knowledge from going on the internet and stuff. Michael Scallion has a real nice video where I think this is also from Edgar Casey, where he's showing where everything has changed around the entire planet. New Zealand is pushed way up out of the water in the video from Michael Scallion. Japan is totally underwater, which has always been the prediction. UK, England is virtually underwater. Most of Europe is underwater. It's, really kind of interesting. These are things you don't really want to have happen. But that also brought into play an older radio show that I saved years ago from Orion Talk Radio. It was the Morning Brew Show with Glenn Caldwell and Neil Bigelow. And they had this one lady who was on YouTube called Just Call Me Kit. The last time I checked her page there on YouTube, it's still there, but hardly anything was put down into 213, and then nothing since. She did this radio show on, let's see, where's the date? I've got it here somewhere. 09/27/2012. And she called herself a Tea Party Republican, and she got into it because she was following a lot of these web pages called FBOs, where the feds were putting contracts up on the internet. And she was following all this stuff being spent out for this, for that, for this. And then she kind of wandered into a lot of this stuff. Most of it was relocation. It was kind of interesting. They were being relocated. Museums were putting things underground in these vaults. They were relocating parts of the EPA, Department of Treasury, Department of Energy. They were relocating all the microwave towers, and they were calling it this one thing, and they were all being put into the states of Kansas, Missouri, Iowa, and Nebraska. And it was really, I know I sent you a copy of the show, and I know you said you were trying to listen to it today. But what really kind of piqued her interest and mine at the time was that they were building these huge underground food storage vaults. And these things were just humongous. There's a nationwide type food storage vault for national emergencies. And these were additions to this. And two of the facilities started off at $73 million. And what they did was, at the time when this show was aired, they broke up the United States into zones, A, B, and C. And each zone would have food, freezer, and cooler space for certain states. Now, like Zone A, and she goes into great detail, and I tried to write all this stuff down, and John Moore almost went into great detail. He was talking about that same type of map. I'm going to check out the newer version. Zone A was Alaska, Arizona, California, Colorado, Idaho, Montana, Nevada, New Mexico, Oregon, Utah, Wyoming, and the state of Washington. Now, listen to this data she gave on the show. 120,000 square feet for dry food storage. And then she said for cooler capacity, I guess for fresh water and stuff, 40,000 square feet. The freezer would have 20,000 square feet for frozen foods and meats. Section B, Arkansas, Iowa, Louisiana, Kansas, Minnesota, Missouri, Nebraska, North Dakota, Oklahoma, South Dakota, Texas. 140,000 square feet for dry food, 60,000 for the cooler for liquids, 40,000 for the freezer. Now, this is all basically based on what she found out in 2012. And then John Moore just basically touched on it. Section number C would be Alabama, Connecticut, Delaware, Florida, Georgia, Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, Maine, Maryland, and Massachusetts. Now, she mentioned there was a couple of states that were not even mentioned in any of these three zones: Mississippi, Washington, D.C., or Virginia. They were relocating a whole bunch of stuff there in 2012, just like in the movie 2012, okay, where things were being hidden, taken from the Louvre. They were hidden in underground vaults. And she said, but she didn't mention what museums. She said museums were sending stuff into these underground vaults, putting stuff away. Now, I know over the years I've heard that England was doing that. All their ancient books and manuscripts and stuff, they were being put in salt mines over there in England. And they said, well, we're redesigning the National Library or something. But this is from that one show, and then she goes into several other different things. But the main thing was for the storage facilities, these underground storage spots. So, there's been just too many hints over the years, leaked hints of what's going on. The building of the deep underground military bases, the DUMS, the building of the emergency seed vaults, which are in every country. The largest one here in the United States is up in Denver, somewhere near the Denver airport. John Moore went into a little bit more detail as to the fact that the Earth's crust will be shifting. and that's what has been basically laid down by a bunch of different leaks. Edgar Casey was the biggest part of that. Anyone who's ever watched the movie 2012, they know the Earth's crust was shifting. In the movie 2012, the Earth's crust would shift 23 degrees. A lot of people knew that the movie 2012 leaked too much information. It also talked about the 3 times this thing has come through our solar system. Now, Gil Broussard, in one of his interviews, I thought I heard him say this has happened 4 times in history. I've only found 3 myself. The first one was with ancient Chinese Emperor Yahoo, Y-A-H-O-U, somewhere around 2900 BC. In the movie 2012, his part was given to a Chinese monk who went up into his tower, and then he feels the wind coming over his right shoulder, and he turns his head and hears the ocean coming over the mountains. You still there?
Yeah, we're with you.
Okay. Yeah, and in the book, the Sioux King, remember correctly, it put down that he saw the thing coming out of the constellation of Yin, and it caused the oceans to top the high mountains of China. Second event I know of is Noah's flood, or Ziasudra's flood, which was told in the ancient Sumerian records. Ziasudra was another name for Noah, which I know a lot of people are really angry at you mentioned that, but I'm sorry. Noah's flood has been almost clearly dated to about 12,900 years ago, give or plus. Second happened during the exodus of the Hyksos out of Egypt at the end of the 17th Egyptian dynasty. The destroyer was in their skies, very clearly detailed and recorded by an Egyptian scribe named Ipuwer. Ipuwer's account is a direct match with the Holy Bible. Ipuwer said that this thing showed up, everyone was freaking out. The pharaoh, which was a Hyksos pharaoh, not an Egyptian pharaoh, did a lot of stuff, and the slaves left with the evildoers out of Egypt. The evildoers were a huge amount of Egyptians who attached themselves to the leaving slaves. The slaves were led by a priest prince from the inner courtyard of Pharaoh, Hyksos Pharaoh. The Hyksos were expelled from Egypt by Akhmos and his brother Kamos, which led the forces from southern Egypt. They pushed them up towards what is now roughly around where Jerusalem is. Akhmos became pharaoh somewhere around 1550 BC. Now, all this has been dated clearly to 1613, 1615 BC, because Akhmos Ipuwer describes very clearly volcanic ash falling all over Egypt. The only volcano erupting then, I've been able to find out, was the ancient Greek island of Thera. It exploded, almost blowing the entire island apart. And recent shows have clearly dated it to about 1615, 1613 BC, because they found a volcanic lava on the bottom of the seabed with expeditions unknown.
Did you know, Robert, that they're also finding volcanoes that are rising up out of the ocean right now?
I've heard various rumors about them, yes.
Oh, there are pictures.
Yeah. I've heard that...
I saw a YouTube video, I can't remember what it was named, it was quite a while back, where this guy came across one with his boat. He was out in the ocean, and he was like, what the heck is this all over the water? And then when he drove through it, what it was it had erupted, and it was the ash that was floating in the water. After he drove his boat through it and got out of, he was lucky he wasn't on top of it. It exploded again.
Now that has happened over in Japan, where they actually had a new island pop up recently from a volcano, and I think there's another island down off New Zealand.
And there's one off the coast of Europe, too, that popped up.
Okay. Volcanic activity has been on the increase for quite some time now. Like most of your listeners know, anyone that's been to my Facebook page, we started seeing these extra satellites. Call them what you will, planets, planetoids, moons, whatever. These things started showing up over Antarctica on April 10th, 2015, where the Neumayer 3 station, which had been constantly tracking this one object well back into 2011. I have the pictures from the earlier times, where this one thing clearly showed up very clearly in their skies, in black and white, and I have the photographs from it. Then my friend Sharon over Illinois caught it in her skies in color. So here's the exact same thing in color. And then it went from there, where we started seeing these different colored things in the skies at nighttime or in the early morning hours. I'm not sure if I sent you one photograph from this morning. Another of my friends has been taking photographs near the sun, and here's like 5 objects all around our sun. Okay? These are real. Okay? These are satellites. The planet Nibiru has 13 satellites. And since it's coming through clockwise between the orbits of Mars and Jupiter, going down below our sun, people like myself don't know exactly where it is in its orbit. But it has these 13 satellites. And they're going clockwise through our solar system at a steep angle, then a steep angle on the way back out. Now, this black star I think Terral was talking about, that appears to be Nemesis. Nemesis is a brown dwarf star, which NASA knows about. It orbits around our solar system. Where it is in its orbit, I do not know. But people do know it. There's a nice video on YouTube called Nemesis, Our Sun's Evil Twin. It's a 45-minute video, and the scientists from Caltech and some other scientists, they go into great detail about it. The dwarf planet Sedna is planet number 7 for this thing. Now, a couple of your listeners have gone on to their astronomy programs, and they've looked onto Sedna, and it's being called a rock or something. I have the program called AstroViewer. AstroViewer. You can go online, and they give you a free copy. They kind of expect you to pay for it, and when they pay for it, it becomes a little bit more enhanced. But the free copy works good enough. and I've explored into that, and I've pulled up our solar system, and I've clicked on the little button for the dwarf planet Sedna, S-E-D-N-A, and I've backed way off as far as you can. And here's this humongous circular type orbit at a high angle from our ecliptic above the area where our basic 7, 8 planets orbit around. And that's just like Robert Sutton Harrington from the Naval Institute said. He said Nibiru had a regular orbit, a regular circular orbit. It didn't have an elongated orbit. And it has this huge 35 to 40 degree high angle from our ecliptic, just like the dwarf planet of Sedna does. Now, a lot of these guys are just starting to really get into this now because they're getting more and more leaks from their people, and research into what the Bible says on this. Now, I'm no expert on the Bible, so I'm not even going to try to. The one thing that has come out, though, is that Akhmos, the brother that survived and became the Egyptian pharaoh in 1550 BC, somewhere around there, Akhmos roughly means brother of Moses. So there's the Bible part.
Yeah, I'll have to send you the show I did with David Mead a few weeks ago.
Sure.
And this is why I believe that this is going to happen next October, because he lined it all up with the Bible and the constellation of the stars. And the planet will be below the woman's feet, and I think he said October 10th of next year, which he said that is when the shift is going to happen.
Which I think John Moore comes close to May of next year. A couple of my other friends, which have been doing heavy research in this, are all saying this will happen somewhere around May. So they haven't given me any exact date.
What David Mead said about in the spring was that kind of basically the same thing Terral said. There's going to be 2 passes, and that the first one will be in the spring, but it won't be the actual shift. It will be havoc on our planet. There'll be earthquakes and solar flares, EMPs, which will take out the grid, the electrical grid. So, like I said, next year is going to be one hell of a year. And I really do believe all this rioting and the dog and pony show, I call it, with the elections and, he's not going to get, it's all a distraction to keep everybody focused on all this BS so that no one pays attention to what's really going to go down.
Well, all 3 accounts, all 3 surviving ancient accounts, Chinese Emperor Yahoo, Mozai, a writer in China, Mozai's account, Chinese Emperor Yahoo's account, the Bible's account, the Lost Book of Enki from Zacharias Sitchin, and his accounts in his book, tablet number 9 and number 10. And then the account from Ippur from 3,600 years ago, the Exodus. They all basically say the same thing. That fire from the sky came down and burned everything that grew. Then we went through, I guess, a comet-like tail where all the accounts say huge amounts of rocks from the sky came down and were destroying all of the habitations. During the exodus of the Hyksos, it said that the palace was destroyed by these rocks, killing his firstborn. Now, he was a Hyksos pharaoh, not an Egyptian pharaoh. So there are several things that are in every single account. Okay? Does that mean it's going to happen again? I don't know. A lot of these people have been saying...
Another thing, Robert, is the fact that people, they want to stay in their comfort zone. They don't want to believe that this is going to happen, and they call people like you and me and Gil Bazard and John Moore and Terral a bunch of crazy conspiracy theorist people.
Exactly.
But all you have to do is look at what's going on this planet right now with the earthquakes and the flooding and the disasters. And if you look at what the people are saying when they're talking on the news, I've never seen anything like this in my life. These are the signs.
And that's because the news will not broadcast it. They are under a mass disinformation program. The United States, Canada, parts of Europe. Okay? They don't want people to panic. And that's exactly what would happen.
Yeah.
Okay?
Just like the Terral. He's sick, Gil Bazard is sick, and we all have the same symptoms. And he said it makes it kind of suspicious, doesn't it? I think it's being done to us.
Well, okay. I don't think I've ever sent you this, but I was sent years ago a nice lab report that talked about the chemtrails. See, the chemtrails have been flying over Europe since about 2003, 2004, and then started over the United States. Samples from Italy, samples from Texas, the state of Texas, were sent to this one lab. And they clearly said it was all man-made microfibers that was in these samples. Now, this was 2006, 2007. And the lab called it Morgellons disease.
Well, it's more than Morgellons, though. Because did you happen to see the post that I put up on Facebook about all those people in Australia that have been hundreds of thousands of people are being rushed into the hospital? They said that there were so many people that came underneath this attack that they could not answer all the calls, that the ambulances and the police were just loaded with rushing people in, and they were calling it the asthma flu. These people just all of a sudden could not breathe. And the news, and I know this is a fake story, because the news said it had something to do with the wheat fields and it being so dry, and then it rained and it stirred it up. But 11 people died from not being able to breathe. One was a child that was, the people were in their front yard holding their child, waiting for an ambulance. For 2 hours they were waiting. And they still have people in the hospital that are dying and are in critical condition. And this is my point on that factor. I can't remember what year it was. I think it was about 2007. I was listening to Red Eye Radio, and they had a professor on there, and he was talking about the chemtrails. And what he was talking about was what they're spraying on us. They can activate certain diseases with the microwave towers, and that's what I think they're doing.
Well, I can't talk about what has been put into the chemtrails since this one lab report, okay? All I can do is I can link it. My opinion links it to the Georgia Guidestones.
Yep.
Now, any of your listeners either know about the Georgia Guidestones or should look them up. They were created back in 1979 over in the U.S. state of Georgia. Huge granite blocks, big granite blocks and they basically have a basic 10 commandments, not like the Bible, but a basic 10 commandments type thing written on them. And one of them very clearly says, never let the population go above 500 million again. 500 million. That's almost a 95% depopulation. Now, if you...
Dave, did you happen to see the post I put up today about warning people about the flu vaccine? It says, do not take the flu shot. It has a new nanobot in it that it eats your brain.
I didn't see that because I only had a little bit of time to go online today because I had too many honeydews to take care of today. Stuff my wife told me to have done, and that took a little bit of my time, so I didn't have a chance to go on there too much today. So there's been a line of events going for a long time. Okay? You've had the Georgia Guidestones in '79. You had the deep underground military bases all around the world, from Norway to the United States, all around. You know, these countries are spending billions of dollars, if that's even correct, to build these things for their own preparations for what's coming. If it wasn't for the fact that they're spending all this money, that we are spending all this money, it'd be, hey, what's the difference? They're just preparing for an earthquake or something or something or something. But that's where all of our tax money has been going into these deep underground military bases, these emergency seed vaults, all of the FEMA camps from the East Coast up to Alaska. Okay? And then there's a whole bunch of other things that they've been buying, the massive amounts of ammunition from every U.S. government agency, from the post office all the way down, massive amounts of ammunition and guns, okay, for agencies that don't need that stuff normally. And then you've got these maps that were created by Edgar Casey before he died in 1945, showing that the entire West Coast will be gone except for massive islands going from Lake Tahoe, Yosemite, all the way up to Canada. Just in that one map, which I think you might have been showing to your listeners. And then it shows where the Great Lakes rip all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico. And then a good part of the entire East Coast was gone. But the Allegheny Mountains, they're actually pushed up a little bit further. And that's why these retiring high-ranking military officials were told to go into the Allegheny Mountains and have their homes there, just like John Moore was mentioning. They were told to get above 4,000 feet. So I'm quite sure a lot of these people have been retiring around Colorado, up in Montana, in those areas, around Lake Tahoe, around Yosemite. Because, they've already been told something is going to happen, okay? And they've made it very clear. John Moore, he laid out a great deal of information in his one show, Preparing for Pole Shift 2017, retired military man John Moore on YouTube. So, these people and their contacts, they know from leaked information or direct information what's going to be happening real soon. My contacts have all been saying somewhere around May of next year. Terral, a little bit off in October or something.
No, he said
No.
it was going to start around the end of February.
Okay. So February, May.
He said there will be 2 passes by. He said in the spring and then again in the fall.
Well, the one interesting thing a lot of people are not picking up on also is that the Earth orbits counterclockwise from the right to the left around our solar system. Nibiru and its 13 satellites is orbiting clockwise from left to right. So I've seen video after video, photograph after photograph, where these things are growing larger in our skies. When they were first seen in April of 2015, they were little tiny things in the skies, except for like the one thing that was caught in the sky over Antarctica, Newmar 3 station. Then my friend Sharon caught it in her skies over Illinois. But all of the rest of them, each and every one of them, they're all different colors. A couple of them have stripes. One has a huge hole in it, believe it or not. They've all grown larger and larger and larger. And I've got the photographs to prove it.
I've seen them. And, I've been watching for years. I've been covering this subject. When I first started covering it, the same thing. That you could see a glowing dot way off in the distance back behind the sun, and it was just a little tiny dot. Now this is right up around the sun you see all this.
Now, the topping part for me, was the WikiLeaks email from this one guy named Don Smaltz. It went to Hillary Rodham Clinton, Senator John McCain, and a couple of other people. And I have a full copy of it. And it is amazing. Because if anyone has seen the movie 2012, it puts the movie 2012 to shame. This one guy, Don Smaltz, he goes into great detail as to what's going to be coming down. And this was put out in 2014. So Hillary and these other people were given this email from this one guy. I've never been able to hunt him down yet, see exactly who he is. He said they had an alien contact in the email, all to these people. And they said that everything is going to start going to heck without the handbasket, because all the systems we rely upon will be taken offline because of earthquakes, this or that. And in the email, he makes it very clear that the Earth's crust will shift 90 degrees, not 23 like in the movie 2012. He said 90 degrees. And the other areas will be completely underwater around the world, just like the map from Michael Scallion on his YouTube video showing the future world map.
They just aired that movie 2012 last weekend.
Yes. I've been seeing it. They've been showing them back and forth, yes. Do I have any idea what's going to happen? I have a hint. I have a hint from the other 4 accounts when this stuff came through. I'm no expert from the Bible. I just know that one part, that Achmos roughly means brother of Moses. Moses was the priest prince from the inner courtyard of Pharaoh, a Hyksos Pharaoh, not Egyptian. The Egyptians will not even mention the Hyksos because they had to kick them out. They were in charge of the Nile Delta area for many years. And they finally kicked them out. And when they kicked them out, they tried to destroy as much information about them as they could, meaning, hey, they were never here. They were killed. John Moore laid down a lot of good information in his video, and it followed almost exactly what I found on my own from books, somehow leading me from one writer to another, of what happened years and years ago, centuries ago, ancient times, which were they did thorough research on. And all of the accounts mention the same things happening, including the ancient prophecies of the Hopi people here in the United States. The Hopi third world ended by water, Saya Sutra's flood. But they also said the Earth's rotation was reversed, so it actually stood still for a brief time. And that's also mentioned in the Bible, where days stood still for about 24 hours or less. Then it shifted. The rotation of the Earth was reversed because these things passing and their intense gravitational electromagnetic pull caught one part of the planet and it shifted across the mantle. That's why in the movie 2012 they called it Earth crust displacement. The Hopi are actually hoping that the Earth's rotation is reversed to the way it was originally. Ippawar, in his account, he said that when the destroyer, which was a huge reddish object in their skies, when it passed, the stars all shifted in the skies. The Earth and the Moon rose and set in new positions. And the growing seasons were thrown completely out the window. When they tried to replant, the seeds rotted in the soil.
Now, have you been noticing the moon has been in all different places at night? I mean, like when it first comes out.
I am not really a person who stays up too late at night.
Well, see, my dogs get me. But I'm talking when the sun, when it first gets dark out, my dogs are always taking me out. I'll give you an example. The other night, when the sun first went down, the moon was over there by Lake Huron. And then yesterday, it was on the other side of my house when the sun went down. It was almost...
Now, a lot of my friends on Facebook are mentioning the same things. Okay? Now, here is a big one. The Inuit people up in Alaska. They're saying that the Earth's tilt is off by a great deal of percent. Okay? The Inuit people who have lived there their entire lives, and they've been taught by their ancestors, they say the moon is not where it should be also.
Yeah, I've been noticing that it's been all back and forth, back and forth. Did you happen to see the photograph that Scott C1 posted today with a picture of the moon, and you can see the red Kachina right next to it?
Well, there's one huge red thing. One of these satellites. But they're all different colors. From blue with stripes to gray with stripes to a white one with a huge hole in it, which a friend down in Australia has taken fantastic photographs. And then there's a red one. Now, I don't know the orbits of these things. I don't know what. But this red one has been caught in the skies over Germany, over Europe, over Mexico. The red one, there's only one red one. It's almost an exact match for Ippelwer's detailed account of the destroyer 3,600 years ago over Egypt. Now the Hopi call it the Red Kachina. Now the Hopi say in their prophecies that the Red Kachina will follow the Blue Kachina. And there's a bluish looking thing up in the skies too.
Yep. That's what I heard. That first we're going to see the blue one and then the red one. And we have been seeing the blue one.
I've got photographs of it. There's also a greenish looking one too. Okay? Now, John Moore said very clearly that the powers that be are using lasers to hide this stuff from our eyes at nighttime. They're also using the white chemtrails during the day. Point out these white chemtrails to my wife, saying, that's not a contrail. Contrails don't go that far. Okay, contrails usually dissipate after a while, after the airplane flies overhead. The chemtrails, they don't dissipate, but they do a funny thing. Instead of being like right behind it, they shift left to right in the skies, getting wider and wider and wider and wider. And you can see chemtrails going for miles behind the airplane. Here over Pacifica, California, we'd wake up early in the morning with a perfectly blue sky. And here comes one plane after the other, after the other, after the other. And the San Francisco Bay Area skies are not clearly blue anymore. Now, these have to be in the skies so we can't see something. Now, some people have nice cameras which can look into the infrared band. Other ones just have nice cameras which can see something. Other people, they can see it clearly because something didn't work right. I'm quite sure a lot of your listeners have seen those chemtrails just screw up their morning or their evening skies, where before it was nice and clear, then suddenly this is happening. One of the Trump rallies before he became president-elect, I've got a photograph from it. Nighttime shot. Here's this guy taking photographs. Must have had a nice camera. He's catching all the people up in the bleachers. And he caught this big gray-looking thing with stripes on it. That's satellite number 13. And he caught that very clearly in the skies behind the people that were on bleachers. It was a nice photograph. So these things are growing larger in our skies as the Earth is rotating toward them. That's the big part here. The Earth is rotating, orbiting counterclockwise. That's why these things are growing larger and larger and larger in our skies. Now, in these three events, ancient events which still exist, 3 or 4, they say each one said the stars shift, they pole shift, Earth crust displacement. Call it what you will. It's where the Earth's crust shifts over the mantle. It's either done by one of these 8, which are now in our skies, or because of all 8 of them combined. That's why there's heavy volcanic activity around the planet. You still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. And that's why you're getting the earthquakes.
I have to mute myself every once in a while because I have to cough.
That's all right.
I just don't want to
right.
cough over you talking.
Yeah, no, I understand. You know, this stuff doesn't happen on its own. There happens to be celestial bodies in our skies right now. That's why you have one video after another, one photograph after another, showing something big in our skies that shouldn't be there. Humans have not seen these things for over 3,000 years. We're all taught in school that we only have 8, 9 planets. And you can only see them as little tiny dots at nighttime in our skies or with a telescope. People around the planet are seeing these things with their own eyes from the ground. And they're big in our skies.
Yes.
So,
well, just
something's
comparing
wrong.
Some of the pictures that you put up maybe a year ago and then the pictures that are coming up now, there's a huge difference.
That's because we're orbiting right towards them. Okay? And that's why they're growing bigger and bigger in our skies. How much bigger will they grow? I have no idea. Ippawar, this Egyptian scribe, said at one point that from the horizon upwards, the destroyer took up 1/5 of their skies over Egypt. Now that is just fricking, fricking madness. Okay? For something that big, that would be larger than our moon in their skies.
Well, you know the time is short, Robert, especially the fact that Ed Dames quit doing his lectures and he quit doing radio shows. And the last show he did on Coast to Coast, he told George Norrie, I'm not going to be doing any more shows or any more traveling around and doing seminars for people. And George Norrie asked him why. And he said, because we only have a matter of months left. He said, and I'm going to quit, go to my safe zone, and spend the last time I have left on this planet with my family.
Well, almost like Terral. Terral's several miles away from his coastline. I'm 50 feet above the Pacific Ocean here in Pacifica. So I understand a lot of these people have already set up their areas in higher elevation. A lot of the people, your listeners, just saying, hey, why isn't our news media talking about this? Well, I'm sorry, they're not going to talk about it. They're not going to. They're going to keep their mouth shut. And hopefully they're on those nice lists for a nice room in one of the deep underground military bases. Everyone else will be running for their lives. I hate to say it, but that's almost exactly what John Morris said in his video. Because when this stuff happens, it's going to happen fast. It's going to be like a slap up against your head. Everyone just wants to go to work, do their work, go home. There's your wife, there's your kids, there's dinner, there's nightly news on the TV, go to bed. But this is not just going to hit the United States, it's going to hit the entire planet.
That's right.
And just looking at these maps, the one that John Moore talked about, and I'll have to get the newer version of that.
I put that in your message board.
Okay, thank you.
I put that link up in your Facebook message board with the revised one. California is going to be toast. Especially the lower bottom part of California is just gone.
Well, the entire West Coast from the Baja all the way up to Canada will be gone. That was also mentioned in the movie 2012, that there's just huge amounts of earthquakes all the way up and down. They didn't go into too much detail. You know, we've been hiding M1 Abrams battle tanks up in Norway's caves for the last 7 or 8 years. We've been hiding Humvees with the 50 calibers up there in Norway's caves. Norway's going to be on the other side of the planet. So Norway's not going to be frozen anymore. And that's why the Doomsday Seed Vault will be nice and open for everyone to get a hold of. That's why they built it, to survive for 25 years once the power was shut down or killed one way or the other. In the movie 2012, the Earth's crust slid above the mantle very quickly. The biggest problem with that is that the oceans go with the crust, as if nothing's happening until the crust stops. Then you'll have that slop, 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 back and forth all around the planet. In the movie 2012, the wave that was hitting India, going after the main character's friend, was 1535 meters high. That's over 5,000 feet high. And that'll be a wave slopping back and forth, taking out all the coastlines all around the planet.
Okay, Robert, we're coming up on the end of the show. We got 10 minutes left. So if there's something that you'd like to get out there that's vital, we'll cover that in the last 10 minutes.
Okay. Well, my big thing, you can find me on Facebook, Robert H. Evans, Jr. Send me a friend request, and I'll go through them rather quickly. And I've been trying to do it lately, get all the friend request type things done. You can also find me on my webpage, starshipsaroundthesun.com. See, while we're seeing all these satellites in our skies in the heavens above, we've also been getting these huge starships coming into our solar system on a daily basis since SOHO became active back in 1999. A lot of people have been saying those are all cosmic this, cosmic that. Sorry, guys. SOHO said very clearly that by 2012, all the glitches were cleaned out of their cameras, and I've got photographs from 2 cameras at the same time showing the same exact objects, which they say cannot happen. I have over 3,000 images from our satellites, stereo ahead, stereo behind, and these images go all the way back to ancient, what used to be another area. It's now called Iran, and the Zoroastrian religion called these images and had huge wall carving made of them called the Ahura Mazda, AUHA hyphen MASDA, the Ahura Mazda. Interesting wall carvings. This huge outstretched, what looks like a bird's wings, and here's an Anunnaki standing right in front of it. Now this wall carving does not show birds' feet or legs. It shows landing gear. 2 metal rods with round things at the bottom. This one guy, I think he's still on my friends list. His name was John Gress. He tried to make a movie in 2006 called One Anunnaki. You can find that on YouTube. Number one, Anunnaki, ANNUKI. I forget the spelling right now. He had all filmed and everything. Then someone, he never goes into too much detail about it, someone pulled the entire film before it was supposed to be released. I wonder why. And all these ISIS dudes over there, they're smashing all the Anunnaki carvings and all the huge monuments they had. Smashing them, bulldozing them. Interesting. I wonder why they're doing that.
I see that.
Yeah. So, yeah, I've been told by my contacts to get everyone to get backpacks, sleeping bags, tents, because when the Earth's crust starts to shift, there'll be massive earthquakes all around the planet. Bridges, roads will be down. You'll be hoofing it. You'll be walking, assuming you're not stopped by the powers that be who want you to be in a FEMA camp as a workforce.
Yeah, or you're in the area of Yellowstone where you're breathing in ash that'll be glass in your lungs.
Well, all three of the last Yellowstone eruptions were tracked all the way out to the Terral Islands, which are 35 miles east of San Francisco. So the ash came down all the way out to the west coast, down to Mexico, and
there's
up
a map
Canada.
for that too. Did you know that, Robert?
I have that map showing the three eruptions, showing the extent
how far
of
the ash will go in the United States, where
Yes.
the safe zone is and where it isn't.
Now we have the Yellowstone volcano warming up, heating up. Some people said the Long Valley supervolcano, which is down near Southern California, was also warming up, heating up.
Now, do you have that map on your webpage?
I have it on my computer. I'm not online right now. It's not on my webpage, no.
Well, why don't you send me that map? Because I don't know where I put it. I had that
No
map
problem.
too, and it disappeared off of my computer. Why don't you send that map to me? Because I'm going to be doing another show with Scott and Steve from WSO, and I'll put the map
sure.
up in the chat at that time.
I'll make sure I send it out to you probably tomorrow or Sunday. Now, your listeners, they need to be prepared. Food, emergency drinking water, things which you can buy at Dick's. You can also get it at almost any camping type store. They're all over the place now. These emergency drinking water cups, siphons, get some fancy ones that go over $1,000. There are some that the military use, which are perfect, and they're about $100 and something. They're going to have food that they can carry with them in their backpacks. MREs, dry type foods, which are not very heavy. My contact said have everyone prepare for a backpacking trip for almost 6 months. Now, I know no one can carry that much stuff, but you're going to have to prepare. Once things start to happen, everything's going to go out the window. There'll be rioting. There'll be God knows what. Okay? It's basically going to be person versus person. One of the books, ebook, The Return of Planet X, I forgot the guy's name who did it. This Native American and a couple of her friends, they saw what they said happened to the United States. Everything east of the Rockies was gone. See, the West Coast shoreline, according to Edgar Casey, is in Colorado. So that's why a lot of things were built up there in Colorado. That's why all these massive food storage things were up there in Iowa, Nebraska, Mississippi, Nebraska. Where are they? I had a while back. Kansas,
Yeah, they say
Missouri.
Colorado's going to be the new Washington.
Yeah, that's why that deep underground military base is underneath their airport. Yeah, all this stuff is mostly put around Kansas, Missouri, Iowa, and Nebraska. That's where they started putting all these contracts out in 9/27/2012. So, they know what's going to be happening.
Yep.
John Paul II. John Paul II, 1980. The Vatican is known very well about this. They've been part of the alien communications stuff with the other countries.
And they have their underground stuff, too.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, well, they do.
Once all the dust settles.
Up on the end of the show here, Robert. I want to thank you for coming out and sharing with us.
Okay. And thank you for having me back on your show. And I was able to listen to Terral tonight. He's been doing a good job.
Yeah, we are all doing a good job. You're doing a good job. Gil, John Moore, I'm trying my best.
That's all we can pray for, is that we all keep trying until the stuff actually happens, and hopefully we all get communications back to each other. We're all trying to do a good job. So thank you again. Thanks again, Bad Baby, for having me back on your show.
Oh, we'll have you back real soon. You take care out there.
Okay, you too there in wherever you are. Talk to you later now.
Okay.
All right.
On that note, I'm going to thank everybody for joining me tonight.